Hello everyone and welcome to another high elo game of Age of Empires. Today, Horse Meat's back on the menu as Capoch, playing as the Magyars in red, takes on Hera, playing as the Franks in blue. Now, while the players herd their herdables explore their desolate surroundings, because I see two unique terrain types that we generally don't see in Age of Empires, which we'll go over when we look at the map, which, by the way, is a new map. I'm going to stop interrupting myself now, and as they both probably try to get their butts up to Castle Age ASAP, why don't we take a look at the Civ matchup we'll be watching today, as neither player wasting any time here trying to okay, never mind. Capoch luring the ostrich, pushing the ostrich. Hera exploring the map. Let's take a look at the Magyars, a fast-paced mounted civilization with a few features that makes them potentially very hard to deal with both in the early and in the late stages of the game. To start with, their scouts, their light cav, their hussars are all 15% cheaper. They get all melee attack upgrades for free. I mean, forging, iron casting, blast furnace, all of that good stuff does save them about 1,000 resources and a let's say a good amount of time that it takes to research those upgrades. Blast furnace itself does take 1 minute 40 seconds, 100 seconds to research. They get that automatically if we're lucky enough to see this game go to Imperial. Now, their cav archers also train faster and can be upgraded to get extra range and attack. And their unique unit is the Magyar Hussar, a light cavalry unit similar to, but a little bit stronger than a normal Hussar, except two big exceptions. Number one, its attack bonus is against siege units, not monks, which in my opinion is a little bit more useful in the later stages of the game. And the second big difference, it does initially cost gold, although you can upgrade the Magyar Hussar so that it has its gold cost replaced with food, becoming a super cool trash unit and one of the prettiest units in the game. Still, despite a lot of action already, 3 minutes into the game, no one's gotten a single kill. Now, to support their horsey-based army out on the map, Magyar villagers can be a lot more aggressive a lot earlier on. I'm looking for wildlife. There you are, Mr. Lion, not so cowardly. They kill these wild animals with one strike. And where is the death on the map? It is here, as it is Capoch, our Magyar, who draws first blood. A Frankish spearman lies dead on the dance floor. Speaking of the Frankish dance floor, let's take a look at their civ, the OG cavalry civilization, by the way, harkening back all the way to the Age of Kings, as Hera equalizes the kill count for a brief second before another villager bites the dust. Frankish knights come with extra line of sight. Their stables can be upgraded to work 40% faster, and all of their mounted units starting in the Feudal Age, which, by the way, in case you didn't notice, this is Empire Wars, which we'll also go over once I'm done the Civ intros. Everyone starts in the Feudal Age. All of their mounted units get 20% more HP. Now, to support their heavy cavalry against annoying things like maybe halberdiers, pikemen, anything that wants to attack their horsies, the Franks can turn to their unique unit, the Throwing Axemen. This is a ranged infantry unit similar to the Malian Gebeto, whose range can be even further increased. And by the way, to help you train as many of these Throwing Axemen as humanly possible, Frankish castles do come in at a nice progressive discount, 15% cheaper in Castle Age, 25% cheaper in Imperial. Now, to build a big militaristic base of very powerful, hungry villagers, and I guess the horses that the soldiers ride on. Although I'm not too sure why I focused on the Magyar villagers talking about the Franks. We are in front of the Magyar base, so imagine these are blue in your mind's eye. Let's play a little bit of fantasy here. But in any event, to feed a big, hungry, militaristic Frankish population, their foragers do work 15% faster, and they do get all mill upgrades for free. So I am expecting, based on the civilizations, how they've been designed and to push players towards mounted units primarily, to have a nice fast-paced game here already. 7 minutes in, we are at 27 kills apiece, although it is Capoch who has the only villager kill, that one villager who lay dead. Oh, look at that. Can still see her next to the Hussar, the light, not Hussar, the scout that she helped take down. Now, I mentioned a few unique terrain bits that we haven't really seen before, or maybe, I mean, I shouldn't say seen before, seen a lot of. The first, you might be wondering, why is there nothing around their town centers on this map, which, by the way, is called Sandrift? Let's zoom out and see why it's called Sandrift. Not very hard to know why. There's a big ravine, a big dried up lake here. The Nile has dried up. we are either in the distant past or in the distant future, where there is no more water on this map, so lots and lots of arid sand, as this is the last of Hera's offensive force. The kill count 22-20, and he's trying his best to stop the villager from getting into the town center. Oh, she gets in. Very sour there. How much HP? 5 HP, and she immediately sees the scouts, immediately runs in. So number one, you might be wondering, why is there nothing around their town center except for a dead tree and a bunch of skeletons? Well, that's because I'm not too sure the name of the terrain specifically, but you cannot build on this terrain, which means there's not a lot of safety for any farmers. They have to be out here exposed, which is why you'll already see 3 mills for our Magyar, unless I guess you're the Khmer, and then you can run your villagers into the houses. But everyone else, nothing a-doing around their initial town centers. By the way, the exact same dead sands in the center of the map means that you can't really build anything in the center of the map. So the infrastructure is very much going to be limited to your side or immediately your opponent's side. But before you get too excited, you see all this cracked desert terrain. This is a special type of terrain in Age of Empires. Anything you build on this cracked terrain, if the center of the structure, so this, for example, let's use an easier one because this is 3x3. Let's say you build a house. Actually, wait a second. Let's see how this battle shapes up, because Hera is also attacking to the back of Capoch's base. So let's leave the terrain aside for a second and see how much damage both players can do. Already a response out of our Magyar. Sends 4 scouts and a spearman. The spearman should be able to scare Hera enough so he gets the hell out of here. We'll see if he sticks around to maybe try to get a villager or two. He's probably trying to click furiously to see which one's HP is low enough for him to be able to snipe. Gets it, gives up, says, okay, you got me. I did as much damage as I could. 27 kills to 25. Hera has managed to get 7 villager kills to 3. Now, the players have disengaged for a brief second. So let's take a look at this house. It's 2 tiles by 2 tiles. If the center point of the tiles, or the center point of the building rather, if any building center point touches this cracked earth, I believe it's called cracked terrain, when you attack that structure, you do 20% more damage, I believe. Let me know if I'm wrong. I think it's 20. It might be 25 when it all the numbers work out at the end. But on paper, I believe it is 20% more damage to anything. So for example, this center area of the town center is touching the cracked earth, which means that if red attacks this town center, every attack does 20% more damage. And so you see why that is important, because there's a lot of cracked terrain on both sides of these bases. So they're gonna have to pick and choose specifically where to place their wall offs to make sure, for example, your palisade is not on cracked terrain, which makes it much, much weaker. For example, these palisades are going to be a lot easier to take down than these palisades here, because they do take that 20% extra damage. So that is the map we're on. A pretty damn cool map, by the way. Loving the fact that your villagers, for food purposes, are very exposed right from the very beginning of the game, which adds a little bit of danger, you know, a little bit of suspense, a little bit of clenched butt cheeks to everybody, as opposed to in the usual game when you start plopping farms around your town center and then easily the villagers run inside. In any event, let's take a look. We've covered the map. Where, as I mentioned, are on Empire Wars as part of the Red Bull Wololo El Reinado tournament. Everyone starts the game with 28 villagers, a scout, and in Feudal Age with a little bit of infrastructure, a blacksmith, a barracks, some houses, and I believe some mining lumber camps and a mining camp, maybe. I believe the mining camp you start with, I will have to rewind. I'm not too sure. It doesn't really matter. Nothing really rests on whether you start with a mining camp or not. But you do start with some very productive villagers already working, and I believe 6 lazy ones underneath the town center who herd whatever animal is there. The goat, the sheep, the turkey. Doesn't the skin, if we're using gamer language, is irrelevant. It is a herdable underneath the town center. And that's Empire Wars. So everyone's kind of rushing to get their Elos up, because on July 28th, that is the cutoff date. And so the top 4 players, the highest 4 Elos on July 28th, will get invited to a big hilltop castle in Spain, which is just about as freaking cool as it sounds. If you are into Age of Empires, I'm assuming you have somewhat of an interest in history, particularly military history. You like what you see, although maybe you just like, I don't know, the game itself, the strategy component of it. I personally love it all. But what drew me initially when I was in high school in 1998, 1999 to this particular RTS versus, for example, StarCraft or Warcraft was the historical aspect of it, which is why when I started, spoiler, not really a spoiler if it happened in 1999, I really did not like monk play when I first started playing this. I really didn't like monk play in Warcraft. Not monks, what were they? They were the wizards and the those demons that rode the skeleton horses, and they could boil the sands, or the human wizards could make what was it, like ice fall from the sky, and the ogres could make each other go into a bloodlust. I didn't like all that spellcasting when I first started. That's why I liked Age of Empires, because it had very little to none of that. But then, of course, obviously that's still an integral part of the game. Hera, by the way, speaking of integral part of the game, he has been here for the last 20 minutes trying to bust his way into this one particular area, whereas Capoch has already busted in here, but gets a little bit trapped. Scorpion a little bit late to the party, might have helped. Let's see what we're working with here, because Capoch is down about 10% in economy, but he is ahead about 10-15% military, but not for long maybe, as his cav archers. So we've got the classic one player going a lighter cav archers, quicker on their feet, the other player going heavy cavalry, a little bit slower on their feet. If they can catch up, man, will the knights absolutely eviscerate these cav archers. But on the other hand, if the cav archers can keep kiting, running, attacking, because let's compare the two. Look at the movement speed. It's not a huge difference, 1.54 tiles per second to 1.49, but it is still a big difference in terms of strategy and how to play these units as the players at the 21-minute mark disengage. Hera now starting to run away with it when it comes to villager count. He's ahead about 20 or so percent. How many town centers? 1, 2, 3 town centers, whereas our Magyar is doing a 1 town center all-in play, which explains why he has about 30% more army supply than his opponent. And remember, his scouts are much, much cheaper. Surprised he's not trading a few light cav just to tank. It is a fairly cheap unit once you add in that 15% discount. What's the HP on all the units? Not terrible. Down about, let's say, 20% here. Cav archers down about 30%, I would say. So both players taking a bit of a little bloody nose, a little scraped knee here and there. Our Magyar adding in some knights of his own. Remember, these knights automatically get iron casting, forging. I mean, we are not an Imperial, so no blast furnace just yet. Whereas Hera had to pay for forging. Not the most expensive, obviously, but as you get going, as your upgrades become more and more powerful later on in the game, they do get more expensive. They start costing gold especially, which is a big savings for the Magyar. Uh-oh. Scorpion's exposed. Hera's added in some monks. Capoch is added in a single monk as well. So Hera's going to want to stop his opponent from massing a giant death ball, because the last thing you want when you're facing a cav archer army, especially the Magyar one, is a death ball with their extra range and attack. It is not pretty, but wait a second. We're getting a Magyar sandwich here. Ooh, almost a Magyar sandwich. Hera's going up to a 4th town center. What are you building here? Additional stables. He's bringing home a 2nd relic. And so he does manage to catch up. This is the problem for Red. If Hera catches up to this army, he will beat it, which is why Capoch needs to micro this so much. Which might explain why he's going for a 1 town center play here, so that he can, in fact, focus on his military a lot more. But that also, of course, comes with his drawbacks. It has limited viability. Losing 1 or 2 units here, they're not terrible for both players. Army counts are still in the mid to low 20s. Now, our Magyar is down 30 total villagers, takes a really bad fight here. Hera pressing into the front, trying to catch some reinforcements as well. Brilliant move out of here. A bit of a derpy situation with a couple of spazzy cav archers over there. Ooh, what is this? This is a cool little rock formation. A little bit of a Himalayas in this desert. Although I guess it would be Kilimanjaro if it's the desert location. He needs more cav archers, and he needs to freaking heal them. 300 HP out of 770. The second Hera catches up, just one strike. You'd think that that Frankish knight was a Magyar villager attacking wild animals with that one strike. But wait a second, Hera. Okay, leaves one knight to leave an exit. I was going to say, I'm not too sure you want to go into this killing zone without having an exit strategy. Hera's army count drops to 15. Our Magyar is at 16 cav archers. He's got a single spearman, a single skirmisher. Are they still patrolling that one? Yes, they are. That one piece of palisade. And our Magyar has cleaned up. He's ahead 19 to 13 army count, but look at the villager count. 43 villagers down. He needs to, he's got 900 stone. Okay. Will he place a defensive castle as our Frank did? Will he place an offensive castle? Our Frank, by the way, starting to ring his base. When you're playing against the Magyars, you need to wall yourself off. Think of them as the Eagle Warrior of Central Europe. It is an offensive castle, but he doesn't know that Hera has a castle here. He's going to see it with the with the cav archers. Maybe, yeah, he sees it now. Should immediately cancel it. Okay. How many villagers is he bringing forward? 16 villagers. Should be able to get a castle up nice and smoothly. I love that he's distracting Hera here, but Hera's seen the villagers. No, that Frankish knight line of sight. Remember, their knights get extra line of sight. Oh no. Oh no. What an absolute disaster when you're already down 40 plus villagers to have your entire civilian construction force. And now Hera doesn't care, lose a few knights here or there. If he can absolutely kill these villagers, he will irretrievably cripple the Magyar economy to the point of no return. Oh, I like that the Magyar's on the high ground here, though. But that's it. 16 dead villagers. Yeah, wow. I mean, things weren't looking that great for our Magyar before that. Who's kidding who? He went for a 1 town center all in. Okay. Solitary goat bleating in the hot sands, I guess. I don't know why this is walled with walls, this is walled with palisade, why he spent so much time attacking those 2 knights that were here. It looks like Hera is on the relic hunt, has 2 relics already. There is a 3rd right here, so he will discover it with that outpost. And is that it? Are there just 3 relics out on the map? No, there's a 4th one. There might be, you know, some of these maps generate random numbers of relics as well. But wow, ultimately, the absolute slaughter of these villagers. Man, oh man, what the hell can you even do against that? That's 16 dead villagers, unless he sent a few back home. Maybe he sent a few back home. No, these guys are gathering gold. Yeah, this one, she's got a pickaxe in her hand too. And I mean, how many town center has Capoch seen? So he hasn't really seen the full. No, never mind. He has seen. He's seen all 3. Has not seen the 4th. And if you let the Frank go up to 4 town centers uncontested, if you let the Frank go up to 140 freaking villagers. Now, the one saving grace, I will say, of this map for our Magyar, which should have made him maybe possibly reconsider, is that there's not that much gold on the extremities of the map. It looks kind of like every player started with the Arabia standard gold. 7 patches, 4 and 4. Then there's a patch of 3 gold here. There's a patch of 3 stone behind Mount Kilimanjaro. 3 stone here, which tells me the extra gold is somewhere here. There it is. But really, there's only 2,400 extra gold in the entire map for each player. That should have made the Magyar feel a little bit better. Because if your opponent's going heavy cavalry is expensive. I mean, I don't even know if Hera would have wanted to go up to Paladin. Maybe Cavalier would have been enough for him. But I mean, the Cav Archers aren't cheap either. I guess I'm thinking more Trash Wars towards the end of the game if our Magyar can hold on. But he just can't hold on. He's on a one town center. He's down to 61 villagers. He's got less than 50% the villager population than his opponent, and now his opponent is closed in, and look at the trail of destruction, the dead red bodies, civilian, military, anything and everything. Hera just catches out here in this dried up riverbed. I still don't know what this is, a ravine? What do we want to call this? Doesn't really matter. Hera adds a few Magyar skeletons to the already awesome, scary, Halloweenish collection of skeletons that exists here, and with that takes the game. Let's take a look at the stats. 59 Cav Archers, 62 Knights. Again, on a one-on-one fight. Not that you should ever take a one-on-one fight like this. Obviously, the Knights will prevail, but the Cav Archers doing a decent job. What's the total kill count before we jump into that? Not terrible. Capoch is less than 20 kills. I mean, if you ignore the villagers that Hera just killed right now, the kill count is oddly similar. Right? I think Capoch killed more villagers. Again, remember, ignoring that last absolute massacre here, that was just atrocious. But ignoring that, right before that, Capoch was on pretty firm, even ground with his opponent in terms of kill count. But 62 Knights, 59 Cav Archers, peak APM, middle of the game, towards the end of the game. And then a few minutes later is Hera with his usual 200 to 300. I mean, 100 APM to 231 APM is a ridiculous difference. Also a ridiculous difference is 11,000 more resources gathered. All of the resources going to our Frank, and 2 relics of 400 gold. So it didn't really have them for the longest time, but 11,000 resources is still what, 45, 50%? Nah, let's not say 50, 45% bigger economy. Conversions 2 to 1 not really playing a role. Raising's not really playing a role. Wow. I mean, how many archery ranges? I'm struggling right now to only 3. I'm struggling right now to understand why Capoch wanted to go all in off of one town center. Was his aim, was his goal to try to snipe villagers? And Hera knows that when you're playing against a mobile army, like if he was the Teutons, for example, which we've seen on this channel, Hera play the Teutons against the Magyars. These would be crenellation castles, and there would be 7 of them. And you would be very hard-pressed to penetrate the ooey-gooey center of Hera's base with any kind of run-by, because he is already setting things up. He's in Castle Age. These castles are 15% cheaper, Inca level cheap, so they cost, what, 100 less stone approximately? And he's gathering even more stone, so soon he'll have enough stone for a 3rd castle, which I'm assuming will be placed either here, or maybe even here, if he can fit it. But notice that Hera, ooh, never mind, he placed it on cracked earth. And that's not a good place for a castle. He could have just put it a few tiles this way, maybe over here, and a wall maybe. But doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, the absolute overwhelming economy of our Frank just allowed him to have the fewer army count, but replenish them over and over and over again. Our Magyar just can't afford to lose army here. He needed that monk that he had that died early on in the engagement up here. Is that still him? This might still be the monk. No, that kind of looks like I don't know what that looks like, a stirrup from a horse. But he needs some monks here to heal up these Cav Archers. Otherwise, you can't take a full frontal engage like this. But Hera absolutely economically dominating this matchup, whereas his opponent, going for a one town center all in, tried to get a castle up. Unfortunately, with the relocation, kind of hesitated for a second. And then Hera used these knights with their ridiculous line of sight. Again, Frankish knights have +2 line of sight, which may not sound like a lot, but it really is a lot. Caught out all of those villagers, and that is just, I don't care if Capoch still had resources. He's got a decent amount, not the greatest, but still has enough for a defensive castle, which, by the way, he could still place. But it is so demoralizing to lose 16 villagers in literally the blink of an eye, and he just taps out. It is Hera, our Frank, who overruns the Magyar quicker moving unit, catches it off guard, slaughters the villagers here in this dry riverbed. I think that's what it is, right? It's got to be a dry riverbed. Yeah, it's got to be a dry riverbed. Okay, I'm going to stop saying the word riverbed like Rain Man. In any event, it's our Frank who is victorious, but GG in a fast-paced, as I thought it would be, a fast-paced matchup to both players. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips and make sure to subscribe and enable notifications so that you're notified of my latest uploads.